Greetings. This is Attorney Della Welch, and our topic today is the 730 custody evaluations. If you read California Evidence Code 730, that's the source for the legal authority for a 730 custody evaluations. Now, the respondent or the petitioner can make that motion to have a 730 evaluation, or a judge on his or her own motion can order a 730 evaluation. Now, one thing you need to be prepared of is there's a high cost for a 730 evaluation. I'm just finishing a recent case of John Doe where the cost ran to $11,000. I have heard of cases where maybe they went from $6,000 to more. So you have to invest a lot of money, and then you'd have to decide how the cost would be split, if it's split between the parties. And also, it's very time consuming. It takes a lot of your times together all the documents from the children's school and emails and other things to have the 730 evaluator give an opinion. It's usually a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or an MFT that is appointed. Now, some courts do different things in appointing an expert. They may give the parties a list of 3 experts and let the parties each try and agree on selecting one of those as an expert. So, based on my recent experience taking over from another attorney who had a different philosophy, his philosophy was that a 730 report is a good report in situations where there's parental alienation, domestic violence, or other problems, to give the court as much information as they can from an expert. There are risks about selecting a 730. This tape is not intended for legal advice, but to give you suggestions to use in whether or not you want to use a 730. I recommend that you use a specialist in family law to handle your case. A specialist is a person who has passed an additional exam in addition to the California bar and is expert in the family law area. And ask your attorney, what is your experience in custody evaluations, to handle it as an attorney, presenting the case, and get as much information as you can for the attorney. Let me tell you some very important risks if you agree to a 730. One would be the bias of the evaluator. Maybe the bias is they prefer the wife's view over the husband's view. Maybe he's of a different religion or something and he doesn't like this particular person. So you have to look for the bias of the evaluator. So that is a big problem. If you get a biased evaluator and he gives you an opinion against you, it's very hard to go against that opinion. The other risk is lack of objectivity. There's a lot of objective data that must be looked at, and he may try and be subjective and put in his or her own views and not be objectively looking at the situation. And also sometimes they rely on very limited information. The idea is to determine the family dynamic, but what may happen, he may not see enough information to determine the family dynamic. What they have to do is go through a lot of records and background about the couple and the family situation, and they make home visits, and sometimes they overlook important things and the family dynamics that must be looked at. Another very big point is the potential of parental manipulation. In a case that I was on recently, the parent was a big manipulator, and this particular parent was able to be very slick in talking and present her case very well, whereas the other side was not as verbal about family situations, and the evaluator couldn't see through the parental manipulation. So these are very important things to look at because the evaluator must be very transparent throughout the whole process, indicate those issues that are very important. These reports can be very long, maybe 60 to 80 pages. And if you don't like that opinion, if they rule against you, I always say it's winner take all. It's like I used to do workers' comp cases, and there'd be what they called an agreed medical examiner, where both parties agreed on an agreed medical examiner. And when that doctor did the opinion, it was very, very hard to go against the agreed medical examiner's opinion. It was winner take all. So you could do the deposition of the agreed medical examiner and find the basis of the report and attack the basis and show how these certain items in the basis are incorrect. So there are a lot of risk. I've been in court many times where I've heard parties ask, do you want to agree to a 730? And the parties will say no. So one thing that's very, very important is that you prepare for the evaluation. On a particular case I was on, I took over from a prior attorney who did not prepare the client for the exam. You need to know the type of questions that you'll be asked, and I would suggest that you not say bad things about the other party, that you be positive. Divorce is a very difficult situation, and it's hard to be positive, but make sure you're getting the proper sleep at night, eating the proper food, make sure you're feeling well and in your best situation so you can present the family dynamic. If there's a home evaluation, make sure your home's tidy. Make sure you look like you're a person in control of things, and put your best foot forward in doing that. So these are a few of my ideas in presenting a situation of a 730 eval. I would collect the documents, the school records, the emails, and I would suggest that you use a video camera to see what about the family dynamic, what you want to present. Judges are very busy, and if they have expert opinion on a 730, very often they go with that expert opinion, and it becomes a difficult thing. It's like in law school, you always learn on the one hand and on the other hand. On the one hand, the 730 gives more information to a judge in deciding the case. On the other hand, the evaluator has the weaknesses that we've mentioned, and if the evaluator has these weaknesses, then you're going to lose in a 730 case. On the one particular case I was working on, the person would have been better not to have done a 730, and my client on his prior attorney was never informed of the risk of a 730. So the purpose of this tape is to discuss with you many of the risks. This is a difficult time, and it's important to put your best foot forward, do your best, ask your attorney to prepare you, and make sure you have an attorney you have great confidence in. This will be the end of the presentation on the 730 evaluation.